killer with surgically modified eyes that see in total darkness, stranded on a planet with 3 suns and no night, is completely useless. Until the planet decides otherwise. The transport ship Hunter Gratzner is sailing through deep space, its passengers sealed in cryosleep. Something punches through the hull. The captain dies in his chair. The ship is knocked into the gravity well of a nearby planet and begins to fall. Docking pilot Fry claws her way to the controls. With barely seconds before impact, she moves to jettison the passenger cabin, drop the weight, save the nose section, and save the ship. Navigator Owens reaches the controls first and reopens the jettison doors from his station, preventing the sequence from completing. The ship levels out at the last moment. The windscreen shatters, and the Hunter Gratzner tears across the planet's surface in a long, grinding crash landing. 11 people walk away from it. Along with Fry, the pilot, there is Johns, a man who carries a lawman's badge and a bounty hunter's agenda. Imam, a Muslim holy man escorting 3 young boys on a religious pilgrimage. Paris, an antique dealer. Jack, a teenager traveling alone. Settlers Zeke and Shaza, and Riddick, a convicted murderer chained and blindfolded. His eyes have been surgically modified in a prison facility, and he can see in total darkness. The planet is a scorched desert under the light of 3 suns, one red, one yellow, and a blue one that rises as the other 2 set. There is no night. The compass needle spins uselessly. The air is breathable but thin, like being 1 lung short. They find the ship's water supply has ruptured in the crash. Paris has crates of vintage liquor. That's what they have to drink. Riddick manages to break free of his chains and heads out into the desert. Imam leads a search party toward the blue sunrise in search of water. Johns goes with them, searching for Riddick. What the group finds instead is a boneyard, a vast channel filled with the skeletons of enormous creatures, picked clean over what appears to be a very long time. The bones show cut marks, as if something had hacked through them. This wasn't a natural die-off. Something killed everything on this planet. Shaza runs to the crash site when an unknown survivor appears in front of her. Zeke shoots him from a distance, thinking it was Riddick, covering her in blood. Johns intercepts Riddick, beats him, and rechains him at the wreck. On the other side of the site, Zeke is digging a communal grave for those who have died in the crash when a hole opens up in the ground beneath him. He looks into it and then disappears. Fry approaches Riddick and asks him if the stories about him are true. He leans into the mythology. He recites the exaggerated stories about himself back at her. But when she keeps pressing, something shifts. He tells her he's no longer the group's biggest problem. Something lives in those holes, something that came for Zeke, and the body is still down there. Fry goes into the tunnels herself, tethered by a safety rope. She finds Zeke's boot, still containing part of Zeke. She also finds the creatures, hundreds of them pressed into the dark below the spires, kept back by the narrow shafts of sunlight that pierce down from above. They attack her, but she makes it out, hauled up by the others as something below keeps pulling on her rope. If you're enjoying the story so far, hit like and subscribe so you never miss a recap. Meanwhile, the search party has reached a human settlement. Abandoned, solar-powered, long empty. Inside, Fry finds an orrery, a mechanical model of the planet's solar system with a year counter. 3 suns arranged on either side of 3 planets, with their planet in the middle. Behind the settlement sits a skiff, a small hybrid spacecraft, old, wind-damaged, but possibly flyable. Riddick is unchained by Johns on the agreement that he helps get the group off the planet, and Johns will cut him loose when they reach the shipping lanes. The group moves to the settlement to work on the skiff. Fry runs the numbers. They need 5 power cells to launch. 4 are still back at the wreck, each weighing 35 kilos. Shaza gets the settlement's solar-powered Sandcat running to haul the load. Then Fry goes back to the orrery. She advances the year counter. Every 22 years, all 3 planets and both sets of suns align into a total eclipse. The middle planet, their planet, goes dark. And because the planets move together during the alignment, the eclipse doesn't last hours. The model shows it lasting days, possibly months. She finds a coring sample left by the settlement's geologists, dated exactly 22 years ago. Same month. The ring of the outer planet has appeared on the horizon. They race back to the wreck in the Sandcat and load the power cells onto a sled. The ring climbs. The first sun disappears behind it, then the second. Then the body of the planet swallows both, and the light goes from yellow to gray to nothing. The sandcat dies mid-journey. Solar-powered, useless in the dark. They have to drag the sled on foot. They don't make it far before the spires start opening. Thousands of young creatures pour into the sky in a torrent, filling the air above them like a river of razor blades. Shaza panics and tries to run for the cargo hold. The flying creatures engulf her, and she's taken before anyone can reach her. The survivors barricade themselves inside the cargo hold. The creatures test the walls, drive scythe-like blades through gaps in the hull, and push the group from container to container as they burn through escape hatches with a cutting torch. Johns shoots one creature down, and they get their first clear look. No eyes, vertical bone blades on the skull, scythe-like claws at its feet, wings for short flight, a jaw that fires echolocation clicks, and ears that read the echoes. It navigates by sound, and wherever light touches it, the flesh chars and steams. Fry wants to move immediately, use light as a shield, drag the cells to the skiff, and get off the planet. Johns wants to wait for the suns. The argument turns into a shouting match. Fry wins it with one reminder. The geologists waited too, and their bones are at the bottom of the coring shaft. The group backs her, but only one person can lead them through absolute darkness: Riddick. Earlier, in the boneyard, Riddick found a dead creature and studied it. He works out that the sonar system fires forward from the jaw. The dead zone is directly between the two bone ears, a narrow blind spot at the center of its skull. He says nothing about this yet. They load up everything that burns: a cutting torch, hand lights, and Paris's misting umbrellas converted into alcohol fireballs by filling the reservoirs with high-proof spirits. Riddick goes out front, with darkness ahead of him and a light positioned behind him, facing the others. He tells them one rule: watch your cuts. The creatures can smell blood. The group steps out into the dark. Behind them, just at the edge of the firelight, the creatures follow, patient, waiting. Imam's hand light goes out, and in the scramble to cover him, Paris is left briefly in darkness. A creature slashes him from behind. He has just enough time to set his last bottle alight and hold it up before they close in. The group keeps moving. Riddick stops. He tells them he's taken a longer route because he needed time to think. The canyon is ahead, and it's full of nests. Before they enter it, the group needs to know something. Jack is actually a girl who has been masquerading as a boy. Her name is Audrey, and she's bleeding. A bleeding girl in a narrow corridor lined with alien nests with no way out is a death sentence. The creatures have been tracking her since they left the wreck. Johns pulls Riddick aside in the boneyard. He lays it out quietly, away from the others. Sacrifice Audrey, drag her body behind the sled as a blood trail to keep the creatures occupied, while the rest run the canyon. Riddick stares at him. Then he turns on Johns. They fight in the dark. Riddick gets Johns' shotgun away from him. They go at each other with bone clubs until Riddick opens Johns' back with his knife and disappears. Johns crawls for his light, bleeding. He finds the shotgun in the dark and loads it by touch, but loads a morphine shell by mistake. The creatures find him by the smell of his blood. The group hears the screaming. Riddick steps back into the light and gets the survivors moving toward the skiff. He doesn't explain what happened to Johns. They run through the canyon. The creatures are everywhere, overhead. The last pilgrim boy is dragged away by the creatures. Riddick finds a crevice in the canyon wall. He gets Fry, Audrey, and Imam inside, then slides the metal sled shield over the opening to seal it. He picks up the power cells and goes. Audrey collects glowworms from the crevice walls into empty liquor bottles, enough to see by. Fry takes one and goes after Riddick alone. He's in the pilot seat of the skiff. The engines are warming up. He opens the hatch when he sees Fry coming and tells her to get in. She tells him they're going back for Audrey and Imam. He tells her they're already dead. Riddick asks her directly, "Would you die for them?" She doesn't hesitate and says yes. He looks at her for a long moment and agrees to go back and get them. All four make it to the skiff. The creatures are waiting at every gap between the buildings. Riddick holds the rear, absorbing the attacks, buying the others time. Fry, Audrey, and Imam reach the skiff. Riddick nearly makes it. A creature cuts him off. He finds its blind spot, the dead zone between the bone ears, and stands in it, swaying to stay centered. A second creature drops behind him. He can't hold both. Fry hears him shout and runs back into the dark. She finds him on the ground, bloody, badly wounded, still holding his knife. She gets him upright. He's nearly on his feet when a creature hits her from behind and hauls her up into the air. Gone. No scream, no final words. Just darkness. Riddick says 3 words. Not for me. He gets up. He walks to the skiff, takes the pilot's seat, and powers up the engines with Iman and Audrey seated behind him. Then he has an idea. He deliberately shuts down the engines and lets the creatures converge around the ship from every direction. He waits. Then he fires at full thrust. The light and force of the engines tear through the surrounding creatures as the skiff punches up through the atmosphere and into space. In the quiet above the planet, Audrey asks Riddick what they should tell the authorities when they're questioned about him. He tells her Riddick is dead. He died somewhere on that planet. Here's what the ending is actually saying, and why it matters more than a survival story. Riddick doesn't fly the skiff out of the dark because he became a good man. The film doesn't ask you to believe that. What he becomes, in those final minutes, is something the movie has been quietly building toward the whole time. Someone who chooses. He had every reason to leave. Johns told anyone who'd listen that Riddick would take the ship the first chance he got. And he did. He sat in that pilot seat ready to go. Then Fry came back, and she said yes when he asked if she'd die for them. The tragedy isn't Fry's death, it's the timing. She dies doing the thing Riddick couldn't quite bring himself to do. And the line he says when she's taken, "Not for me," is the whole film in 3 words. He never expected anyone to come back for him. He didn't know what to do with it when someone did. Pitch Black was shot in Queensland, Australia, on a budget of around $13 million. The writers built the film around a single question: what if the monster wasn't the creature, but the condition they found themselves in? Total darkness as a physical force. The alien designs were deliberately built without eyes, because in a world of permanent sunlight, eyes would be a useless evolutionary dead end. The creatures were always there. The light was just hiding them. On release, the film performed modestly and wasn't considered a hit. It found its audience on DVD and cable over the following years, exactly the way so many films of that era found the people they were made for. Not in theaters, but on late nights on the couch. Its reputation reversed almost entirely in the years after release, and Riddick became one of the more enduring genre anti-heroes of that decade. Not because the franchise grew, but because the character in this one film earned it. The sequels have their defenders and their detractors. This one doesn't need defending. If you enjoyed this recap, please like and subscribe. It would really help the channel. Thanks for watching.